Hello and welcome to our podcast, Stop Whining About Real Estate. I am your host, Sarah Birnbaum. With me is my co-host, Emmanuel St. Germain, and our wonderful guest today, COO of LoKation Real Estate, Jonathan Lickstein. Welcome to our show today.
Thanks for having me, guys. I just learned the name of your podcast, and I'm quite excited.
Thank you. We like it. It's a nice little fun play on words with drinking a little bit of wine, and at the same token, talking about all things real estate. And one of the things that we will try to do is, I know that you're a really positive and optimistic individual, but we're going to try to get you to whine a little bit about real estate. So let's just jump right into it. Jonathan, tell us just quick, brief history of how you got into real estate and what is it that you love about it?
You know, everybody's got a story of how they came into this business. There's either a person, an event, or something that happened that made you go get your license. And mine is probably a unique story that you haven't heard from anybody else. So I actually got into real estate in a third world country on a little island off the coast of Honduras. And I was there on vacation. I ended up meeting the mother of my 3 children, and my first one was born there, actually. And I started working running a restaurant. And every day, this small island, it was the only deli, American deli on the island. The real estate company was next door, and they'd come over for lunch every single day. And I said, finally, God, this is paradise. I live on a Caribbean island. I'd like to stay here. Hey, Mr. Owner of this real estate and vacation rental company, do you know anybody? I'm looking to get a real job and, be able to do something a little more long-term. He said, come and speak with me. So that Friday I met with him and started working for him that following Monday. And I was with him for just over 5 years, starting in vacation rentals into property management, and became the number 2 grossing realtor on the island, second to only him. So that's how I got into real estate, moved back up here, joined up with LoKation, and helped grow that company to what it is today.
That's very cool.
I've never heard that story before.
Right?
No, me either.
You didn't know I'm fluent in Spanish, did you?
I did know that.
Okay.
That I did know.
It's like a secret I like to keep.
So wait, were you there on vacation?
I went on vacation. I met this woman.
Okay.
I'm going to call her this woman because she's the mother of my kids. That's the best way to describe her. So I met her, and I decided to stay. 5.5 years later, I didn't go back to school. I went to the School of Real Life.
That is just like literally following your heart, following where the universe takes you.
Would I ever let my kids do the same thing? Absolutely not. But it was great life experience.
Yeah.
It was a different time. I mean, you're talking 2003, 2004.
Yeah.
Great time to get into real estate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I got in too, actually. I don't think I've ever shared, but I moved down here in 2005, and my dad was in the mortgage industry. But it wasn't a hands-on type thing. I didn't have a clue what he actually did. What I liked growing up was the flexibility of what he did. I was an athlete. Every event that I went to, choir, anything that I participated in, he was able to go to every single event because of the flexibility of the schedule. And so as soon as I moved down here, for me, that was like, hey, let me check this industry out. And in fact, the irony is that I started in this very building that we now have for those of you who haven't been to our office, we've got a nice office on the first floor, but I started in a company upstairs, and here we are back full circle, and now as an owner of the company, which is cool. So
you talk 20 years of growth, and you're still in the same spot you began.
Yeah, somehow you leave, and then you come back in a different world. But yes, somehow it worked out like that. Well, luckily, actually, we're happy to be in business. There's real estate hasn't been easy the last year and a half. Tell us a little bit about your model. I believe you're a 100% model. So your model is a little bit different, and I think I'm presuming you do as well, that with what's going on with NAR and some of the commission squeezes, that this might be a huge opportunity for you. So what are you going to do about it? How are you starting to market to that in order to help LoKation grow?
Yeah, so that's kind of a loaded convo there. So let me go back a little bit. LoKation was originally founded as I joined up with the CEO of the company, Nathan, when I moved back to the United States from Honduras. And I joined up with him to train his agents how to sell like I had been able to do, how to market themselves, how to generate leads. And my job started on a fold-out table with a plastic chair in the hallway. Like, it wasn't a position. He created it for me. And, that was the start of the rest. But while we're there, I would be training training agents, and we were on a 50-50 split at the time. A boutique company, 17 agents that I would train to make money, and they get to a point where they're profitable. And it's just heart-wrenching that they walk out the door for a 10% increase on their commission split. It's gut-wrenching. You put your heart and soul into these people, and there's zero loyalty. So we said, what do they really come here for? What do they really need from a company, and how can we make them successful on a bigger scale without having our hand in their pocket? And that's where we came up with this concept. 100% commission with no split is not a new concept. It had been done. There are companies that were doing it for over a decade before we started, but we just did it in a different way. It's how can we give the agent everything they need to be successful and not have our hands in their pockets. And that has led us to the success that we have today. So you talk about the settlements and the impact on commissions going forward. As commissions are more scrutinized and more squeezed, where agents have less money on the table to play with, they're more careful about where their money goes. Now, I'm not saying all commission splits are wrong or are bad. There are certain companies where you really do get the bang for your buck with what they're keeping from you. But the concept of a commission split is you're going to leave money with the company in the hopes that they spend that money in a way that will trickle down and benefit you as an agent. The vast majority of them do not benefit that agent. The rich get richer, the poor stay poor. The top agents will always get the benefit, and the agents coming in or trying to break into that company never really realize the true benefit of that funds that are staying with the brokerage. So then you come to a company like ours. And the right agent coming to a company like ours on 100% is not just putting more money in their pocket to spend it on a car, jewelry, a vacation, whatever it might be, these short-lived material expenses. It's they're retaining that money and saying, I'm going to give myself a 15% split, a 20% split. I'm going to set that money aside. And every penny that goes into that fund is going to directly benefit my business and help me grow. So the agents that embrace that concept and reinvest back into their business are the ones that we see going from a $6 million production into a $15, $20, $25 million producer because they're reinvesting and directly benefiting from the money they're putting aside. That's the right concept to go into a 100% company with.
Very cool. So real quick, just for the audience, scale-wise, how many agents do you guys have?
We currently passed 4,000 agents last month. And that's all been built since we started offering this. That was in 2013.
Awesome. So does that make you one of the largest in Florida? Where are you guys located? What states?
So we're top 5 in Florida. We operate in 6 states currently. And, it's hard to compare us to like a national brand name like the ones that you would hear, right? I'm trying not to mention names here.
No. But we don't need to advertise anybody else. We're here for you.
When you talk about independent companies that aren't kind of controlled by the public atmosphere or being part of a large franchise, we're number 11 in the country. So out of anybody who started a business and grown, not just in number of agents, but sales volume, we're producing. The people that are coming in, the misconception of a 100% company has a bunch of people who have no guidance. That isn't true. We have the production. So did over $4 billion.
That leads me to the next question, which is, because you said something that I personally had never really thought of when I think of that the 100% model. Do you actually that you were telling an agent to take 10 to 15%,
invest in yourself,
reinvest in yourself, whether that's coaching, whether that's leads, whether it's marketing, a whole host of different things that, listen, an agent is an entrepreneur, just like we are here, we've got expenses and things like that. Is there any teaching that goes on in terms of how to help them do that? Is that something that you personally have set up? Like, how does that work?
Absolutely. So we go a couple different avenues. Myself and Michelle, who's our managing broker in Florida, every state has a different broker that kind of leads the territory. But what we do is twofold. So we have a mentoring program where we take our top producers from the prior year and sign an agreement with them to mentor some of the newer licensees. They get a piece of a split, we get a piece of a split, but they get a baked in kind of education and mentoring platform where we outline a curriculum of what they should know, how to get help, how to start doing marketing, and the mentor is kind of a direct guide for them. Just keep in mind, it's a 4,000 agent roster. We, as a couple people at the top, cannot be the sole source for them. So we have a team, somewhat of a call center of broker support agents that are all former people who were licensed and active in the industry who are there to provide guidance. You call, you text, you chat, you've got somebody on the other side of the line that's ready to give you guidance with a dispute, a contract, language, whatever is necessary. So that's the mentoring side. The coaching side, Michelle does every month, the first 30 days in real estate. Somebody who's just starting or wants to kickstart themselves if they haven't been in the industry for a while. As well as myself, I do coaching on the commercial side, as well as people that are dealing with some larger, more complex situations. And absolutely, when we do business planning, we teach that. Set aside some money and help yourself grow. That is the basis of what we do. Now, granted, 100% company, what you guys want to do, what the agents want to do, they can engage as much or as little as they choose to. It's really, we're here. If you want the guidance, we're here for you.
Can only lead the horse to water.
Yeah. If you don't want the guidance, we'll leave you alone.
Yeah. So it's up to them.
100%.
So, Sarah, tell us about your journey, because I don't think Jonathan knows.
Into this world?
Into our world.
Okay. So before my life at Choice Mortgage and doing, business development for us, I was at Marriott and I was corporate group sales. So I had a handful of accounts and I would be their person, their liaison between every property in the world, essentially, that had a Marriott flag, and negotiating contracts for them for the next year out. COVID hit. I was doing that for probably about 10 years. COVID hit and people stopped traveling. Airplanes stopped, hotels stopped getting booked, and Marriott freaked out and they furloughed, I think it was like 4,000 people in March of 2020. And I didn't really know what I was going to do. They were going to call us in June and everything was kind of up in the air. Anyway, so I ran into Emmanuel because he and I had mutual friends at a dinner party. They were supposed to go to Costa Rica, but flights were no longer going anywhere. And so they had a dinner party. And he asked me how work was. And I said, funny you should ask, I just got furloughed. And he said, I'm really sorry to hear about that, but that's amazing. And I was like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that's amazing. And he's like...
Insert evil laugh.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I always have I wanted you on our team. I didn't really know in what capacity, but I think you'd make a great addition to our team. You should come work for me. And I was like, I don't know the first thing about a mortgage. I don't even have a mortgage. I'm not a finance major. It's not really my thing. And he's like, no, I don't want you to do anything like that. I want you to come on and do a bunch of the things that you can't teach a person, but you have a lot of the talent, I guess, gifts that we could use on our team to help us grow. In the beginning, he had this idea of me being business development. The problem was that everything was shut down. So there was no office to go to. There was no networking to go to. There was no appointments to be had.
Our world was closing down. Everything was on Zoom. It's like, all right, well, this is, her greatest strength is not being on Zoom. It's the ability to meet with people and to connect.
And have conversations, right?
And have conversations just like this. So when I came in, they were busy. Rates were really low. Refis were going crazy. He and Jared, our COO, were working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. And we needed bodies. We needed to build out our operations. So I learned as quickly and as well as I could what a processor did, what made a great processor, closer, loan partner, so loan officer assistant, and I just went to work hiring. And we kind of built out this operational team.
And firing.
We did. We did hiring and firing.
No, but it's important to say that. And what I mean by that is that in order to develop, Sarah gets a lot of credit most of the credit for developing the culture that we have today in our company. And a big part of that is also you've got to recognize to let go of people when it's time to let go of them and to hire the right people in order that fit what you want. Like I remember when Jared and I were interviewing people, we're saps. Like, we're too easy. And the irony is, like, we're not today, but we were in the beginning.
Yeah, we were.
In the beginning, we just assumed, like, oh, no, Jonathan wants to really try. He's going to do this. He's got a great attitude.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, like, what the hell did we just do?
Yeah. And I think, we worked it out. We worked out the kinks. We experienced some things and shifted in different ways, but we did it together, the three of us, really, Emmanuel, Jared, and I, and built out the team and got to a place where everybody kind of worked normal-ish hours and got sleep. And we were crushing it. We had a ton of stuff in the pipeline, and And Jared and Emmanuel went to work really hard at that point on building out our systems, our process, because we had the team now to do it. And we figured out exactly who we needed in those seats, which I think was key for us, because we were like, we really like this person. We're not really sure, but we really like them and we think they're going to work really hard. And if we couldn't find the right fit for them, it just, at the end of the day, it just wasn't going to be a fit. And so we did that for a while. And I think I did that for about 2 years. And I turned from recruiter to HR to onboarding to tech to putting computers together to moving desks to the mama bear of the couch in my office was the most popular spot.
You sound like a realtor.
And everyone goes to her so they're all intimidated to come ask me anything. Why?
Terrified of him.
And I'm not intimidating, so I don't know why, but for whatever reason.
Well, there's always a picture made of who's in charge. And, I've been the same way. I consider myself approachable. I consider myself to have an open door and have people walk in. And if you want to change the culture of what's in your office, sometimes you have to cut some people who know the old way in order for the new culture to start. And sometimes that separation's a good thing. In a certain aspect, right?
I think we play on it pretty well. So the irony is that they think I think they're starting to recognize Jared is not as friendly. It's not that he's not a friendly guy.
It's the patience.
Is it the beard? Is it the beard that does it?
I think they think he's more approachable, but he's tougher than I am.
He is. And he has less tolerance for things. Emmanuel will kind of listen to what the problem is, and he'll kind of give you some answers and ways that you can go and solve it. With me, I'm like the therapist. So they come to me and they complain or whatever it is that's going on. I usually can get them in a spot to where they can be good with whatever's happening and they can get back to their desk and go to work. So my couch is very useful because though he sometimes thinks that people spend too much time in my office talking, I think it's diffusing because we're in a very stressful industry. So I think having somebody coming in, talk to me for 5 minutes, I can diffuse them and they go back to work for us is, I think, amazing.
I think that's very valuable. And she could probably use a bigger office to have more space for the couch.
I agree. And I need a couch and a love seat.
The funny part, if you ever watch the show Billions, she's a little bit like Wendy Rhodes in that sense, and where she's like the psychotherapist and her job is to get like the salespeople all fired up and stuff like that. So,
and the other thing too is one of the things that he said to me when he hired me was, you're going to have some of the tougher conversations with me because other people won't do it. They won't come to him and say, hey, listen, this is not working. We need to change this, or we need to add this. And I think just based on the fact that we were friends prior to me coming in, I had a comfort level with him to where I knew that I could do that. And so, there's things that he maybe didn't think were important to employees or to our team, and I thought were very valuable. And we had to kind of shift and change and bend a little bit. And so it worked. And then when the world opened back up and we had this great team and systems and processes, that he said, all right, well, your work here is done. Now go out there and do what you do best, which is sell and build relationships and bring in business. And so then I rolled into my true role that I was hired for originally.
Emmanuel, in your position running this business, the most important thing that you can ever have as a leader is perspective. And being able to get that perspective from Sarah, that is hearing it from staff, hearing it from the agents that are working with you guys and partnering and trusting you guys with their business, is a really key part of you being able to make educated decisions for you and your partner to run and go forward. And that's across any industry, any business, any organization. The top can make a decision, but unless you understand how it affects everybody that has their different roles at every different level and the people you serve, it's impossible to make a quality decision. I heard about a real estate company today. I was having a conversation with an agent who's with us, telling me about the previous company, again, not mentioning names. But they made a policy change, and it's a select group of like their top 5% that sits together on a council, and they make a decision for that market area on what's going to be changed. So they needed to increase the bottom line of the revenue of that market area. So they said, okay, from our perspective, we can add an additional $300 fee to every transaction. That's going to raise our bottom line. That's cool. It doesn't make that much of an impact on us, but these are the people that make the top 5% in revenue.
Right.
So they pushed out all the people that are, kind of making a much smaller percentage of the revenue, and they went elsewhere to other companies. They didn't take that perspective into account, and the ripple effect or the backlash was big. They lost 20% of their roster because of it.
Yeah. I think that happens a lot in corporate structures, and we have a corporate structure, but it's not the bigger corporate structure that I'm thinking of, I've worked sales for most of my career, and it was always the people at the top that were making the decision for the people that were the boots on the ground. And I'm thinking to myself, we're the ones that are going out and talking to the customers, and we're talking to our clients. What they're rolling out to us it won't jive with what we're doing. It's so against what we do every day in these relationships that we're building to get them to say yes to our contracts, to get them to say yes to us. And there was no perspective between the people at the top that were making these decisions of what they wanted, probably revenue, bottom line driven, and then the people that were actually listening, talking in the trenches with the people that they wanted the yeses from. And I think it's important that we have these check-ins, and we do weekly meetings, our exec meetings, and it's the manager of each department. And I'm in that meeting as is Jared and Emmanuel, but we're all talking about our departments, and all of us are talking about what's going on, and it makes us all kind of understand how everything is connected and what everybody needs, what people are missing, where there's issues, and how we can fix it.
I think one of the things that is something that was very important for me, and I think that it's actually filtered through from top to bottom, is that that making a mistake is not a bad thing. You use mistakes in order to get better, and it's not about punishing someone for making a mistake. I rather you just that we take that mistake, we learn from it, because everything for us at the end of the day is about the client experience, the referral partner experience, and the employee experience, right? It's on our walls. It's literally, that's it. So, hey, all right, so you just sent this email. This person responded this way. Why do you think they responded this way, right? Don't be so technical in just the action of what you're doing, but put yourself in the other person's shoes. They think you just asked them for something that they've given you 3 times. They're frustrated. Okay, well, what's a frustrated person do? Frustrated person starts to lose their patience. They're not going to treat our employees the way that I want them to be treated. Number 2, a frustrated person is going to call you, the realtor who referred them, and say, hey, I'm not 100% satisfied. That's going to affect our relationship in terms of getting future loans. So it's just getting through to everybody that you are part of something bigger than just your role. The activities and the tasks that you do, the reason I'm a perfectionist, and a perfectionist is never going to be perfect. That's not what it means. It's that you aim for perfection, and when something goes wrong, we fix it so it doesn't happen again. But because of that, I think we've gotten our people to really understand and really buy in on the caring. Mm-hmm. You got to care about what we do. Because if you don't, if you're just transactional, like, I don't want them on my team. Yeah. It doesn't work.
We're not a transactional company.
Yeah, the same thing goes on real estate. Right. It's the same. You want people who care. Yeah. It's really funny. All these technology.
We're in the people business.
100%. There's all these technology tools and evolutions and artificial intelligence and ChatGPT and this messenger and this bot, et cetera, et cetera. We've really lost the art in your everyday, day-to-day business of having conversations. It's getting on the phone with somebody and having that appeasing conversation when you're asking for something that's frustrating, and going forward and saying, hey, I know you've probably sent this to us. I can't locate it. Help me, please.
Yeah.
And people inherently just want to work well together and don't get frustrated with that. But for some reason, the common public is afraid to pick up the phone and just call.
But that's a big downside too. So like one of the things I'll say is that some of the companies and the larger the companies in my side of the space, I notice they try to use too much technology, and both the loan officer and the clients get frustrated all the time. I won't name a company either, but I'm thinking of a company that, something that's incredibly trivial had to go through 3 different people before a decision was made, and then there was 15 different applications in terms of, you got to learn all this technology, and it's just not conducive to doing business. I had, I'll share with you, I had a company that was possibly interested in acquiring us. Okay, I'm not for sale, but I'm also a business person. I would never turn down a conversation. You just never know. And as we're listening, as I'm talking to these individuals, they have no idea what their value prop is. Not only can they not share their value prop, the fact that they're so large, they just do everything normal. I'm like, okay, great. Well, tell me some of the stuff that you're doing. Are you licensing any realtors and letting them get paid? No. Okay. You're missing out on a big opportunity. What else are you doing? Like, can you see what's happening in the market? Are you partnering with builders? What incentives are you getting? And what I find is happening is that some of the larger companies in our space are just old and boring. It's true.
Ditto.
They really are. They're old and boring, and like you got to get with the times, and you got to get ahead of it. And like that's what a CEO is. You got to be visionary. You got to think 5 years ahead and where are we going to be. And I think you started on this, so let's go down this path a little bit. Talk to us, because I know you're much more well versed than the two of us are in terms of AI. How do you think AI is going to transform this industry, and how do we use AI to our advantage, but not lose the relationship aspect, which at the end of the day is really a large part of what our value props are in order for us to earn the revenues that we earn?
So that's a big conversation. This is going to be personal opinion for a few minutes here. When it comes to AI, as it is right now, there are agents and companies that can tremendously benefit from it. The way that I look at it, it's an enhancement, not a replacement. But I'll digress to that in a second. So it's more of an enhancement. Right now, there are a few tools that we are leveraging as a company that help nurture the consumer a little bit more and get them to the point of needing that conversation instead of us having to educate and kind of spoon feed the individual up front. It's conversing with them where they don't know it's a bot. The biggest challenge is using and leveraging AI without the other person knowing that it's AI. If they know it's AI, you've already lost that relationship, and they don't think that you believe they're worth your time. And that's a problem. And AI has gone through so much evolution and development that many people don't know that it's AI. I'm going to use one company it's a popular portal. Not going to say the name. Anyways, for about the last 8 years, they've been leveraging AI voice technology to conduct conversations with the people that pay advertising dollars to advertise with this portal. And they would have check-ins with their quote unquote account representative, not knowing that John is an AI. And he's taking that, dictating everything onto a record, digesting it, and responding back conversationally that you don't even know that it's an AI. It's been going on for years.
Amazing.
So while it's become more mainstream and accessible to your everyday realtor, your everyday business person, now that technology's been around. It's been happening, and it's going to continue to do so. Let's talk in the mortgage aspect, right? Imagine you have somebody call in, they want to talk to an LO, a loan officer, to start working on questions and pre-approvals, et cetera. That can be an AI. That could very easily be an AI because it's knowledge-based questions that are really repetitive regardless of circumstances. A consumer has XYZ, I'm getting a divorce, I'm filing bankruptcy, I make this much, but this much is W-2, that much is self-reported, whatever it might be. All of these are scenarios and triggers that the AI can pick up and provide a cogent response and provide that information, all meanwhile documenting and being 100 times more organized than your average human being and putting that into your systems. So I just gave you an idea there. But
the wheels are turning.
On the real estate side, realtors can leverage that to nurture consumers and kind of track and see and pick up on social cues that the average human being can really lose and really not really encounter and leverage. So going further down the road, past content creation, past writing blogs and letters and email drip campaigns and all the stuff people are using it for now that save time. In the future, there is going to be a portion of the marketplace that is completely AI driven, and the agent, broker, et cetera, are not involved. But the human element of the real estate transaction will never eliminate completely.
Right.
You can buy a pair of shoes online. You can buy a pair of shoes online, any type of shoe in the world that you could possibly want, but you still have people going to the shopping malls and trying the shoe on and touching it and feeling it before they buy it.
Yeah.
That element will still apply to homes. You can look at a house online. You can buy it. You can go through the process. There's a portion of the market that will feel comfortable with that, and there's a portion of the marketplace that wants to walk into it, wants to see it, wants to have somebody to talk to and ask questions and feel like they're getting guidance from an expert. And that's going to always be there.
I feel like it's a little bit, and this may not be the best analogy, but it's a little bit like when we get a phone call and it's typically a virtual assistant, I'm going to make an assumption based on accents. They are not in North America.
You can tell. You can tell.
And when that happens, the people that I know or that I've queried on this throughout the country typically want to hang up right away.
I already hung up.
Yeah, me too, but I was trying to be nice. And do you think AI will also create that? You know, I can tell you the way that I am as a person. When I call anything and you're making me go through, press 1, press 0. Now, that's an operator, you know, one of those things. For me, I'm like 0, operator.
It's like that meme.
Operator.
It's like, get me the manager, get me an operator.
I want to talk to you. I want to talk to someone who can guide me in the right place.
But imagine you call and the first one that answers sounds like a human being. It says, hey, thank you for calling Choice Mortgage Group. How can I help? And you just start saying what you're looking for. Meanwhile, what's happening behind the scenes is the same call menu, but it's being done in a conversational method that feels human to human, and you don't know it's an AI.
Listen, that part I'm good with. Where I think you're going to see an issue from a loan officer perspective is I don't know how AI will interpret the goals of an individual and be able to transform that into how to create a roadmap for real estate.
It's already being done.
We'll see.
All right. So I want you to look up, I'm going to name drop for a second.
It's okay.
So I want you to look up what Howard Tager from YLobo is doing.
Okay.
And he focuses on CRM, lead generation, websites.
I spoke to YLobo, and in fact, they don't have a mortgage. They only do it for real estate. And
it is real estate.
I told them, I said, if you need a company to be a pilot on your end, I would love to do that because I loved the follow-up concept. So I like it. All right. So offline.
He's leveraging AI more than anyone else I know in the field right now.
Offline, we discussed that sometimes salespeople can be a little bit lazy, and we need to figure out as owners and how to motivate people and how to get them to make more than 2 or 3 phone calls in a day. And it's like at the same time, why? You know, when this technology comes, like that's where people need to realize that your value set, your skill set needs to be something that you're going to be able to do, because I can get someone else to do the follow-up. As soon as I get AI to do the follow-up, and what AI is going to do is set me for an appointment or set someone else for an appointment, then now I'm creating that option where it makes it really simple. The sales aspect is easy. Or it's easy enough once you get the person on the phone. But you look at the lead game, what do they say? You're supposed to reach somebody 7-8 times average before they even pick up. You know, you give a loan officer or a real estate agent or any salesperson, to be honest, a lead, they call once. They almost all call once. I'll go maybe twice. 3, you got a real follow-up superstar. But beyond 3, I mean, it's hardly any.
I think the stat was 92% call fewer than 3 times.
Well, see, I'm glad he's brought stats because I don't have them. They're just my gut intuition.
Stat.
It's a bad stat, but it's real.
Yeah.
And if you can differentiate yourself by simply doing follow-up, setting up systems that and even automating the follow-up, it's just touch points.
Yeah.
And the simple thing, for example, you call once, everybody automatically should be calling twice. You call once and they don't answer. What are you supposed to do? Call again, right at the same time. How many times does your phone ring and you don't answer it, and then you get a call from the same number? You're like, okay, maybe I should answer this.
I'm big on, so I leave a voicemail. I know that most people don't check their voicemails, and I know a lot of people don't empty their voicemail box, which I don't understand it in sales.
How is this possible in sales?
I don't get it. It drives me crazy. It almost deters me from wanting to engage in business with that person, but
maybe you don't want to work with me because I don't.
You don't.
I don't. Well, you get dictation on your voicemails now, so I can see what all of them are.
Gotta empty them out.
Yeah.
So what I do, though,
text me. You would have texted me if you wanted to get me.
So I call. If they don't answer, I leave a message, and then I send a text right away. Hey, so and so, it's Sarah from Choice Mortgage Group. Just left you a voicemail. Wanted to quick message. Let me know when you're available to chat. Most people respond to text. Oh, I'm in the middle of whatever. Give me an hour. But I hear agents and I hear loan officers all the time. They'll say, well, I called and I left a message and I haven't heard back in 3 days. Okay, what? What are you going to do after that? Like, you want them, right? So what's that look like?
When I used to go after listings and do cold calling and prospect and stuff like that, right? It'd be the double dial up front.
Okay.
So call, don't answer, call again. And you get a lot of people who pick up on the second call.
Of course, they're
I can't tell you how much that bothers me, though.
I love it.
Because if there's a reason I didn't pick up, like we're in a meeting, we're doing something.
But there's a reason you did.
I get that it works. I get that it works, but if the double dial for me is like, that's reserved for mom. That's like, there's an emergency. That's like your wife, that's your spouse, it's your kid. It's like something big. It should be the double dial.
So when you answer on the second one, because you're like frazzled, you're like, why is this
what's
person?
up? Yes. Everything okay?
And they're like,
My dog
hey,
okay?
I want to talk to you about yada, yada, yada.
Like, there's a reason I didn't pick up the first time. I'm in a meeting. I'll call you back.
Well, a lot of times I don't answer if it's a number I don't know because there's so much spam and robocalling and the international virtual assistants, right? All of that stuff that you see a number you don't recognize. If it was somebody that I had dealings with, they'd be in my phone.
Right.
So the first dial I won't answer. Second one is like, maybe I should have this person. Like they call me, there's something important going on.
Yeah.
And you'll answer, and it'll either be valuable or it won't be valuable. But whether you answered the second call or you answered 5 calls later, a week later, it's still going to be the same reaction, but they got you.
Not to put you on the spot, but do you remember your pitch?
Which one?
On the double
dial?
When you're calling the FISBOs?
I'm so glad I got you. I was worried I had the wrong number.
I love that.
I do like it too because it's like, okay, well, it
makes
gives
you
you
think.
pause.
You're like, wait a minute. No, this is my number.
And it's usually it wasn't a cold call. I hate cold calling. Like you couldn't pay me enough money. You could guarantee me 7 figures and I wouldn't cold call. But miserable existence.
So there's a thing called trigger leads, which right now, there's a bill in Congress that they're trying to make it illegal and get rid of it. And there would only be I think there's like 3 circumstances you could do it. So one would be like the servicer, one would be the existing mortgage company, and something small. But the general concept of a trigger lead is that when you get your credit pulled, our wonderful credit bureaus love to sell that information out to everyone. And so you can have an individual have their credit pulled for, we're doing a credit pull in order to pre-approve you and actually get your loan ready to go. And next thing you know, they get 50 phone calls. It's harassment. It's brutal.
But how am I going to get my extended car warranty?
Well, yes, that too.
Those have stopped.
But I will share with you, when I started in the industry,
For me.
these trigger leads were a big part of the business. And like you'd have your call sheet with your ruler, and you had to make a ton of dials. Look at stockbrokers. I mean, they have to make a ton of dials too. Like it's
a certain kind of person.
It is, but like hopefully you just do it in the beginning, and then you elevate your game, and now hopefully you don't have to do that forever. But like I don't know, I feel like it's a little bit part of like the.
It's that you're paying your dues.
Yeah, it's paying.
I always wanted a connection or like a reason that I was calling, like something to follow up on. So I did a lot of like lead magnets. Offering something of value in exchange for contact information. So if a consumer would go on and they would ask for a market valuation or whatever it was at that time, following up, hey, I wanted to make sure you got it. And it's clear to understand, did you have any questions? Why were you looking for a valuation? And just starting conversations, not being pushy, but starting the follow-up and starting the nurturing, and then invite them to something in the neighborhood later on that week, et cetera, et cetera. When I was doing that, it was mostly on the island before I came back here. I quickly became non-compete when I came up here. So most of my experience was leveraging kind of this small community feel in a large geographical area. And it's the name of the game hasn't changed from 05 to 2024. It's still building relationships. It's getting out. Conversations. Everything is meant to be a conversation starter. Without a conversation, you can't build a relationship. Without a relationship, there is no transaction. So it all goes back to, how can I start conversations? I want to do X number of deals. I need X number of relationships. That correlates to X number of conversations every single day with somebody new.
If you're speaking at a college and someone asked you, what are the top 3 attributes of a successful realtor, what would you say those are? And are they things that, and then sidebar question to that, are those things that someone naturally has, or are they things that someone can learn?
That's a great question. And I'm going to go with 3 things that are kind of vague, but they can be applied in different ways. One is fearlessness. You can't be afraid of rejection.
Love that.
Number 2 is tenacity. You can't stop until somebody gives you the finger or buys. And number 3 is organization, because if you don't know who to go after with that tenacity and fearlessness, then you don't have a target. You're shooting into open air.
That's really good.
So
I would say your first one, by the way, is which I'll call on my side of the word, I would also call that call reluctance, is probably the biggest impediment to most young loan officers not succeeding.
to most young people in general.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
In any industry, everyone is so afraid to put themselves out there, to just step out and say hello to somebody out of fear. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. It blows my mind. I have competition with a friend of mine. Anytime we travel or we're somewhere else, usually for a conference or whatever, how many random people that we do not know that we can touch, physically touch.
Do I know this person?
You do. So I'm going to go out and I'll name drop. That's fine. Leslie Suarez.
Okay.
When we go to these conferences, for example, we're walking around usually in a group of different people. It's how many strangers can you get to start a conversation with you or give you a high five? And we just have that
I'm
competition.
going to be watching you guys at Florida Realtors.
It happens all the time. We did it in, we were in Miami for somebody's birthday. No, it was the President's Circle Conference.
Oh, God, the Fountain Blue.
We were down there,
Yeah.
right? Actually, Leslie wasn't there that day. It was a different spot. Anyways, so we're walking around down the street, and you'll see both of us split and go to two random people on the sidewalk and start conversations. And guess what? By the end of that, people inherently want to be friendly. People want to have conversations. They're just so afraid to put themselves out there. So if you throw yourself out there, it's easier for them to be open for it. And that's the same thing when it comes to real estate. When you go to a Little League baseball game, right? You know how many transactions I've brought out of Little League baseball? And I never tell anybody I do real estate.
Yeah.
Ever. I'm there coaching my kids, building relationships with the other parents, and simply saying, hey, I took a picture of Johnny in the dugout. I'd like to send it to you. And it came from my work email.
Yeah.
It's
Perfect.
You do the little
I
plug,
do that with school too.
right?
Yeah.
And it's just putting yourself out there. So a realtor goes to a Dunkin' Donuts. By the time they leave Dunkin' Donuts, the person in front of them, behind them, waiting at the pickup line, and the cashier shall all know who they are and what they do. Not because they're introducing, hi, my name's John Smith, I'm a realtor. No, it's
just natural engagement.
Exactly.
My favorite is in an elevator when there's a lot of people, especially, and everybody's just so stiff and they're quiet and they're all just so serious. And I'll turn around and I'll say something like, how's your, just anything. How's your day? It's hump day.
I want to challenge you to something. I did this one time on an elevator. It was the most embarrassing thing. I did a little fake fart.
Oh, no, I can't do that. Nope.
And everyone looked around like, was he him? Was it him?
No,
Was it him?
I can't do that one.
And then you just tell everybody, hey, it was fake, but I got you to smile, didn't I? And it starts a conversation.
Maybe I could do that.
There's a so the irony is, like, for me, we have very, very different personalities in that world. Like, I don't do well with rejection. I don't like rejection. When I started the mortgage industry, in order to offset my age, because at the time there weren't many young people at all doing mortgages.
Is that why you got into mortgages, to reject other people?
No.
I'm just kidding.
No, I got creative in order to not reject people. But, like for me, my sales approach was an expert approach. And I decided I knew guidelines inside and out, and I knew how to figure out how to do stuff. But the rejection part has always been, it's hard for me to say, hey, just dial, because I don't like it either. Now, I'll do it, but it's not my favorite thing to do. I did read a book, and I can't remember the name of it. But it was something on rejection, and basically it's this author, Canadian author, and what he does is it's a game. He treats it like a game for like 100 days. I want you to go get rejected. You're forced to go get rejected, and you start out with little things, right? Like ask somebody for you go to Starbucks, ask them for a second coffee for free. Right? Nothing big.
Does that work?
The whole point is that you'll realize that a lot of times they won't say it's what you thought you were going to get rejected on wasn't so bad. Go ask the security guy if you can borrow $100. And instead of the guy saying no, he goes, what's it for? Like this is an example he gives. And you just took the no away, and you gave yourself an opportunity to validate your reason for asking for the money. And if it's valid, you might get a yes. And he just goes through the whole concept of like, ask for something absurd. And what it does is as a salesperson, it teaches you that rejection wasn't so bad now, was it?
We should do that with our team.
So a buddy of mine
discussed it in our sales conference many times, but unfortunately, we can't get. Nobody wants to go get rejected.
I really like that concept. A buddy of mine does something similar. He's like he's a real life Hitch. You remember that movie Hitch with Will Smith, right? So he teaches men how to approach women and build relationships, right? I was like, damn, you should be a real estate trainer, buddy. You teach people how to approach, right?
Absolutely.
So that's his thing. At the first 30 days is every day you have to go approach somebody in the anticipation of getting rejected, and then it becomes any other day. It becomes any other thing, and you don't let it affect you, and you continue forward. So I love that. Yeah. It's a little bit of a different application.
I don't like the rejection.
It's that reluctancy of the rejection that really holds a lot of people back in any industry, and that's why some people work jobs, for example, that they're unhappy with their entire life.
But it's safe.
No, it's so
safe.
true.
It's 100%.
There's so many people that would be my dad included, but would be entrepreneurs, right? Or they don't leave home. They stay in the small towns. They're not willing to necessarily get out of their comfort zone. Personally, in my journey, I found that when I do get out of my comfort zone, and because I'm going to overcome whatever it is, that's just the winning mentality. But when I do come out of overcome that obstacle or whatever that is, you're like, wow, that was a lot easier than I thought. Like, why am I limiting myself? And then you start to kind of progress through that, and then you start pushing. Now, I'm not so intentional to the point where I'm saying, today I need to get out of my comfort zone. It's Tuesday. Tomorrow's Wednesday. I do push people, but
get comfortable being uncomfortable, Sarah.
I have lived in the uncomfortable with him, I would say, more than most.
Yeah, but I get all the credit for her growth.
Because what he does is he goes, okay, she's really good at talking to people. She's really good at creating relationships. She's good out and about. She's good networking. She's good with the team.
She's very humble.
I haven't gotten there yet. But then he'll say, what are all the things that are not her strengths? What has she not tried? Okay, this is all great, wonderful. You do this naturally. So this is not considered part of, your job anymore. Here's what I'm going to give you as part of your challenge, part of your job. Let's do all of the things that you're not comfortable, have never done, and then let's push you in this direction. And
that's how you grow.
I totally understand. I totally understand. I probably have stomach ulcers from it, but it's fine. But all of the stuff that he notices as like a natural gift, he's not discounting it. But that's not where I get to hang my hat. I get to hang my hat and show, I guess, be proud of myself in the stuff that he gets to push me with, because he understands that it's not my natural tendency. It's not where I live easily. And, it's kind of like, well, let's see if she can do this.
Give it a couple more years and look back and see the different person that you are.
Hands down.
Massive difference.
It's been almost 4 years, and I can tell you from where I started, and I was in a career for many, many years before I came here, right? So this is not my first go at anything, and it was big corporations. From where I was, where I started, and for who I am now, just as a person, completely changed. And I don't say it a lot in front of him, but it's mostly all of him.
I appreciate Emmanuel. I didn't like her in the beginning. Now she's somewhat decent of an individual.
Yeah, it's really easy to push someone who's willing to, it's very, I guess it is like coaching. If you have a student, a pupil, an athlete, a whatever that is willing and moldable and wants to get better, it's fun to work with that person. When you're the older, wiser, experienced one, Sarah's a little older than I am, so I'm not in this case, but no.
There it goes.
I'm just kidding. You got to take some jabs once in a while. You got to keep it real. No, I'm older. But when you have someone who's willing to work with you and understands that when you push them, you're not pushing them for the fun of it. You're pushing them because they've got greater potential than what they're seeing in the. It may not even be what they're seeing in the mirror. It's what they're exhibiting in the mirror. Is a better way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you say you challenge them. And, there's many opportunities, and we've talked about this before, but there's many opportunities where on certain things where I'll let people fail because I need you to fail so you realize next time. Because if I pick you up every time, it's not going to work. So I think letting people fail, letting people grow, push them beyond what they think is their natural bounds. Not over, you can't go crazy, but you gotta, because you don't want someone to break down and.
And whether Sarah knows it or not, she's doing that with somebody else. She has her son playing baseball where you fail more than you succeed. In fact, you fail more than you succeed and you're the greatest player in the world, right?
Yeah.
Some of the greatest players in the Hall of Fame got out 2 out of 3 times that they went up to the baseball plate to go hit.
Game of failure.
And it's a game of learning to fight through adversity, to fight through failure and grow from it. And you're doing that and you don't even realize it. And
sure.
And that competitive nature.
So I get credit for that too? Just kidding.
But that is how people grow. And yet it can be fun at the same time, but you're trying to mold and grow somebody to be better for themselves.
Yeah.
And that applies across any industry with any role whatsoever. Giving a challenge or giving somebody the comfort of being satisfied in their current position, that complacency, they will never grow and they will never be able to exceed and push your initiatives of your company's growth to a certain point. You have to challenge people.
And I think that that's something that I think people either have it a little bit or not when, as kids and as they grow up. But my dad, for one, was one that always kind of pushed. Like I would get a good grade or have a good science project, and he'd be like, "Okay, that's great." Kind of like, "This is what you're supposed to do. What's next? What's going to happen next time? What did you learn from this?" And always kind of pushing the envelope. And you get to a point where you're like, "God, isn't this good enough?" And it's not that it wasn't good enough. He just wanted me to continue to think about growth and always wanting to get better instead of just saying, "Well, I got an A. I guess I've hit the top. I'm good now." And so I grew up thinking that way and grew up with a person above me who I always wanted. That's the respect and the pride that I wanted from him. And so when he would do that with me, it was kind of this exercise of, okay, that was good. That's fine. But like, what could I do? What could I have done better? What could I have learned from this? What can I do the next time? What's next on my plate? And
Sounds
so,
like your dad prepared you for me.
I call you. I say that all the time.
Did she just? Never mind.
No.
So you're absolutely right, and you continue to.
And
grow.
I want to do that with my kids.
Even today, you're still growing and learning. We never
absolutely.
Stop growing and learning. When we do,
we would be
we're
so
dying.
bored. Yeah,
you have to continue.
absolutely.
To do so.
Yeah.
And Emmanuel, I don't know about you, but regardless of whatever role or rank or title we have within business, we are still learning and receiving more information that we can then digest and leverage to help benefit our team, to help benefit our people to grow and do better. And when you look as a leader, instead of what can I leverage this person for and this person for and this person for, it's how can I help that person be successful? Because if they're successful, I'm going to be successful.
Absolutely. Yep.
And that's the way to look at it.
That's
I think
amazing leadership.
A lot of the growth too. I mean, I'm big on listening to other podcasts. I'm big on reading. I am constantly in growth mode, and it's one of the things that makes my partnership with my partner Jared really, really strong because we both are in tune with the same thing. We want the same thing. We want to grow. We want to grow. We want to do it the right way, and things are. Make it so much easier when the vision is in line with your whole leadership team. Let's transition as we start to wrap up. Let's get you to wine a little bit.
All right, where's my glass?
Yes, we'll get you a glass of wine. Tell us your biggest complaint about the industry at the moment, and then a year ago.
Go a year ago first. Maybe?
A year ago, what was my biggest complaint? So my biggest complaint were excuses. Okay.
Love that.
That's so good.
Agents, brokers, it's never their fault. It's never our fault. We are a product of the circumstances that surround us. I'm not going to curse. So nonsense. That is nonsense. Not what I really want to say.
Yeah.
Wherever there is change, there is opportunity. And now we're experiencing a change. A year ago, we were experiencing changes when it had to do with interest rates and people sitting back saying the interest rate is stopping me from doing business. Nonsense. Pivot and do something different.
Yeah.
So when sales transactional volume dropped extensively at the end of the pandemic era and transitioning into the jack up of rates, there were additional opportunities. How can you continue to make money if you don't have transactions? So we spun up a property management company. And it's something I had done at the very beginning of my career. I was comfortable and familiar with it, right? There's that comfortability, and created this where you can leverage the relationships you already have. You've been selling real estate for X amount of years. You've sold properties to X amount of investors. Or there are people out there that are frustrated, especially during COVID, where they can't travel to their properties. They have limits and people who aren't paying rent. They need the help. They have the revenue. They need the help. Start property management. It's a month to month. Every month you have base revenue that is not transactionally driven. It also keeps the relationship with your consumers when they want to list for rent, when they want to list for sale, instead of passing it off to somebody else to give them the ability to build a relationship. So complaints, there were different ways to pivot and do different things. There were applications out there where you could do showings and open houses for agents and make money as kind of like a gig, right? Some people started driving Uber to make money on individual tasks. This app that was out there, you could get paid for doing a showing for somebody else's customer, get paid to do an open house for somebody else's customer. These individual task items that keep you ingrained in the business, you don't have to shift and get a job somewhere else. Right. You just have to be more creative with your time. Maybe getting a staff job, maybe being an assistant, maybe going and getting your loan originator's license, becoming a part-time loan officer. See what I did there?
Love the plug. Thank you.
Any which way, there are different aspects. I saw a lot of agents start to become transaction coordinators during that time. Yep. Those were creative individuals. All they did was create more of a network, more of a relationship, whether they stay as TCs, right? Whether they stay as TCs or go back to being full-time agents. They built more relationships. They did things that benefited themselves in the long run while still making it work in the short term. So that was my complaint a year ago. It's probably a complaint that's consistent. People being the victim instead of taking control of their destiny.
Ooh, entitlement.
Right?
Excuses are the worst. Just go do it. Stop.
What's my biggest complaint today? My biggest complaint today is negativity. Okay? Again, with change comes opportunity. I believe there is massive opportunity for agents who are organized, fearless, and tenacious with conversations and relationships. What we're looking at in the face of the next evolution of the way real estate is done, if this settlement agreement gets approved or is approved, there's a lot of fear on people saying that compensation won't be in the MLS. I don't care. It's an opportunity. You think about the commercial side of the business, it's been operating this way for decades, and people still make a great living selling and leasing commercial real estate. Use that as a roadmap instead of an excuse or fear of, oh, I guess this is going to end. What do we need this for? It's just another tool. Why do people subscribe to CoStar and LoopNet? Because on the commercial side, that's where you have your data. Does that show an offer of compensation? No, it does not. You still have to go about it and have your agreements and make your conversations. So is the MLS going to become that? That's fine. It's still a great set of data that I can leverage to market my properties and get access to other properties as well as good, up-to-date information. If I have that, I don't mind these other conversations. I don't mind the requirement to negotiate. Let's go in and I'll demonstrate what my value is. Here's what we're going to agree to, and let's go at this together. There's never been a better time for you to make a buyer feel like you're on the same team than when you sign a buyer agreement.
I love it. I love that you're the aspect of the loyalty part for you guys. I think that it doesn't happen to us as much, obviously, because once we pull credit and once you provide me all your financials, all of that stuff, they tend to not love having to do that too many times. And I think the statistic is that people do business with 78% of the time they do business with the first mortgage person they talk to. So for me, that says two things.
Bringing the statistics.
There, he's got one. He's got one for today.
Yes. So for me, it's there's two things there. There's an opportunity that means that there's stickiness in the beginning, right? If you do a good job. Number two, it also means how valuable the relationship is with the agent if they're referring that person in. Because if you're referring someone else, that means I only have a 22% chance of trying to go steal that client or have an opportunity to do business with that client, so to speak. So that's why it's so important to create the partnerships, to create the referral networks, to be a value add to the real estate agents and brokers and companies and builders, all of the like. So I like you, I see it as a major opportunity for the entire industry, and I think it's going to raise the level, the bar. You're going to see
Raise level of service,
more professionalism.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, I think that's when this all pans out. I think the word for in mortgages, they said stay alive till 25 was the key word, and because we've had a lot of mortgage companies have gone out of business. There's been a lot of mergers,
A lot of consolidation.
a lot of consolidation.
On both sides,
yeah, efficiency. It's the way it happens. So, but I think what you're going to see is the word for. If I were giving a word for realtors on whenever this is all finalized, I think it's going to be professionalism. I think you're going to be a return to. It's going to
perfect your craft.
It's going to be a craft. It's going to be a service that professionals are going to just absolutely crush it. They're going to do really well, and it's going to weed out a little bit of the people, and that's okay. Happened to us in my industry. We lost a lot of loan officers in the last 2 years, and hey, it's unfortunate for them, but it's fantastic for those of us who are still here. So,
people have been clamoring on the real estate side for an increase in the level of professionalism for years, raising the bar of what it takes to get a real estate license and maintain a real estate license. And this circumstance in front of us is kind of making that happen.
Yeah.
You know who they need to go after next? The driver's license. Can we make people have to get tested at a certain age?
I agree with that.
Can we
especially
have
down here.
tickers on turn signals?
We're here
if you
in
leave your
South
turn signal
Florida.
on for too long,
It automatically turns off.
You take your license and get it revoked.
We're here in South Florida, and there's too many people who have driver's licenses that shouldn't have them.
No.
But
There's an old Jerry Seinfeld stand-up, and I'll be brief. There's an old Jerry Seinfeld stand-up where he talks about in Florida the eventual turn signal. It's turn your blinker on and turn anytime in the next 2 days.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Now you don't even have to turn that way. You could turn the complete opposite way.
How some people back up and don't look. Like, I lived this long. Now how can you fare?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on with us, Jonathan. If you, for any potential agents that are listening that would love to talk to you about joining your location, how can somebody get a hold of you?
So my direct contact is pretty easy. Jonathan, Jonathan. It is A-N at the end, not O-N. I'm not a sociopath. At locationre.com. That's location with a K, LOKATIONRE.com. Or just go to the website, joinlocation.com. We've made it super simple, and that's location with a K.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on here. We greatly appreciate it. And any parting words, Sarah?
No, it was great having you. I loved it.
Thanks for the convo, guys.
Absolutely.